I hate wasted potential. It crushes your spirit. It really does. It crushes your soul. This game isn't even over yet. I'm recording this video with like 6-7 minutes left in the third period, but the Vancouver Canucks absolutely post up a dud, a sloppy, a gross game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. In the third period, when all these Toronto goals started going in my mind, I was just playing that, you know, that SpongeBob sound effect when all the gross stuff comes on the screen? The like whatever that thing is, the foghorn? That just kept on going in my mind. I was like, darn, man, they're blowing it. They're really blowing it. I'm going to be honest. The Vancouver Canucks had an opportunity, or 5, to win this game, or to take control of this game, and they never ended up doing so. Talk about a team that played pretty sloppily against the Ottawa Senators and still came out with the win. They're playing even more sloppier against a better team, and they have their starting goalie in net in Thatcher Demko. The game isn't over at the time of recording this audio, but the Leafs are up 5-2, and I don't think the Canucks are going to come back. Vancouver had a bunch of opportunity in the first period. They had a bunch of power plays that went their way. And ultimately, it's the Maple Leafs and their really aggressive penalty killing and super intentional offensive zone structure that is able to come out here and strangle the Vancouver Canucks in this primetime Hockey Night in Canada game. We can break this down in 2 ways. First, we can talk about the penalties, and then we can actually talk about the goals. Now, the Maple Leafs end up getting a bunch of calls against them in the first period in particular. Matthew Knies trips up Filip Hronek in the first minute, and the Leafs go to the PK. Mark Giordano gets an instigator against Dakota Joshua, and the Leafs go to a PK. There are some other things that go on here. Tyler Myers cross-checking against William Nylander. Domi got the instigator too. There was a really strong discourse going on about these 2 penalties in particular. Mark Giordano for instigating a fight against Dakota Joshua, and Max Domi for instigating a fight against Ian Cole. They both come after the Canucks players deliver big, glorious body checks, and the Maple Leafs guys decide to step in and immediately start wailing on the Canucks players. Honestly, Kevin Bieksa was kind of right in the Hockey Night in Canada analysis he provided. Both of these players, Domi and Giordano, could have avoided the instigator penalties had they just done the fighting a little bit more courteously with these Canucks players. Had they given Cole or given Dakota Joshua a bit more time to get set into the fight, drop the gloves consentingly, and not just wail on them after immediately running into them with their own gloves already taken off. It was pretty intentional, and one of the small nuanced details that I feel was definitely appropriate to be called. Instigator penalties are fair because it really is just on the offender to avoid it. But either way, the Canucks get multiple power plays in this game at the time of recording this audio, because again, there's like 5 minutes left in the third period. The Canucks are indeed 2 for 6 on the man advantage, which is not the worst thing in the world, 33%, but of course when you look at it like, okay, the Canucks had 4 power plays that didn't go their way, and 4 power plays that actually resulted in some good Toronto chances too. You start to realize how sloppy this entire game was. Vancouver had the opportunities. They had the chances, but they just could not control. I'm gonna be honest, Elias Pettersson, he had a bad game against Ottawa, maybe even had a worse game today against Toronto. Quinn Hughes, while he has looked really good in some moments, especially towards the third period of this game, his play really started to deteriorate, and him and Hronek, this pairing getting hemmed in their own zone multiple times, which led to Toronto goals. This was a pretty set strategy, I feel, by the Toronto Maple Leafs to take advantage of how the Canucks cycle the puck down low behind their own goal line and exploit that, trapping some of these players and forcing them into uncomfortable positions. But anyways, we can talk about the goals in this one because the Canucks do start things off with the first goal of the game. It's scored on the first instigator penalty taken by Toronto, the one by Mark Giordano. Pettersson is on the right side. He goes back over to Hughes. Hughes on the left to Miller, who walks in and snipes it by everybody. It's a very good play, and he gets it through the huge screen over to the far side, beating Ilya Samsonov. It's 1-0 Vancouver. Eventually, a few minutes later, it is Matthew Knies who's able to get on the board himself. This is a very unfortunate play for Vancouver because it comes off the tail end of a Canucks penalty kill. The Leafs had the power play, but it expired right before this goal went in. It's thrown towards the goal, eventually ends up behind the net, and Tyler Bertuzzi is there behind the Canucks goal. He tosses it out in front. The Leaf on the side takes a shot. It goes off the Canucks defender and back down low to Bertuzzi. Demko is out of position. Bertuzzi tries to play it off of Demko and in, and eventually the rebound is just right there on the doorstep, so it's Matthew Knies who is able to chuck it in to the open net. 1-1 game, good for Matthew Knies to get back on the board. The Canucks then have themselves yet another power play. This is on the Max Domi instigator penalty. And the first unit just does not get it done. They're not looking good. They're not moving the puck as well as they could. The Leafs' PK is really aggressive, and it's doing well for them in this situation. But eventually, it's the second unit that's able to get things actually on goal, and Pius Suter on the rebound is able to pot it in for his fourth on the season, assisted by Anthony Beauvillier and Filip Hronek. Good to see Hronek still getting more points, and of course, Pius Suter getting the offense going for him. That's something you love to see as well, considering his role in the lineup. But the first period ends off 2-1 for Vancouver. The shots on goal are actually pretty skewed in the Canucks' favor. They're 12-4 in this first. Of course, the Leafs spent like half the period on the penalty kills, so you could understand why it was that low for them, but they came out with a pretty okay 1-goal deficit, and the Vancouver Canucks looked sort of eased in. I mean, they didn't really challenge Samsonov that much. The 2 goals that were there were off of some pretty good plays, but there weren't too many, like, absolutely amazing saves by Ilya Samsonov in this one. And honestly, I could say the same thing heading into the next few periods. I don't really feel like the Canucks had too many amazing grade A opportunities, since the Maple Leafs just kind of locked down and made it difficult for the Canucks to do their thing. All the rest of the goals in this game come from the Toronto Maple Leafs, starting out with William Nylander 4 minutes into the second period. This is a brutal play for Tyler Myers, who ends up deflecting the puck into his own goal. Thatcher Demko makes a brilliant cross-crease save on Tyler Bertuzzi, but the Vancouver Canucks cannot clear the puck, and eventually it plays over to Tavares in the middle. He chucks it towards the goal. Nylander takes it, tries to dangle around Demko, and he almost pulls the trigger, but he kind of mishandles it a little bit and just throws the puck into the blue ice, where Tyler Myers is there and deflects it in. That is the game-tying goal. 2-2. William Nylander with his 10th on the season. That guy has been on fire this entire year. And the Vancouver Canucks, despite getting a few more power plays, are still not able to convert, nor really test Samsonov to the best of their ability. They did not get any sustained offensive pressure that actually looked meaningful. Meanwhile, the Maple Leafs strike back with a pretty innocuous opportunity from Noah Gregor, who takes the puck in as the Leafs are entering the Canuck zone and just kind of fires one towards the goal from the far perimeter of the faceoff circle. It's up high, it beats Thatcher Demko, that's his second on the year, assisted by Morgan Rielly and McMahon, so there you go, McMahon getting into the lineup, gets himself his first assist on the year, good for him. But at the end of the period, it's 3-2 Toronto, and at this point, at the end of the second, I'm like, okay, this team needs to wake up. The Vancouver Canucks need a talking to. They gotta walk it like they talk it, because Rick Tocchet, man, he's got that strategy. He's got that plan. He knows what this team needs to do to win. So if he gives the team a talking to, hopefully they're able to implement that into their third period game, but no, they're not able to. Nick Robertson gets a goal after the Canucks get hemmed in their own zone. It's thrown out into the middle by Max Domi, and Robertson is right there, fresh off the bench to backhand it in. Of course, I love my Filipino boys, my twins, I guess you could say, because everybody seems to say I look like Nick Robertson. Even my mom said that. It was kind of funny. But Nick Robertson gets the 4-2 Toronto Maple Leafs goal, and at this point I was like, yeah, they're losing. There's no way the Canucks are going to win this game, and that's cemented even further when David Kampf gets himself his first on the year. This is a shot made by Noah Gregor near, like, the point. It's on the far half boards. He just throws it to the goal, and it's tipped in by David Kampf. Again, it's a play where the Canucks are hemmed into their own zone, and ultimately that holds up as the final goal of the game. 5-2, Vancouver loses, and it's in a really sloppy, gross, messy kind of performance that you definitely don't want to see. The Canucks are not going to win every game in the year, which is totally fine, but in the games they do lose, these are the ones that you want to at least see some good effort and consistency out of, because you didn't see that here, and the Canucks end up facing a Montreal Canadiens team that literally just beat the Boston Bruins right now as I'm talking into this microphone. The Canucks play the Habs tomorrow, so back-to-back situation here. Of course, the Canadiens are coming off of some good morale. The Canucks are not, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section either way. How do you feel about the Canucks losing to the Toronto Maple Leafs? I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.